If you saw my last video, you'll know I recently went up north to stay in this treehouse, aka the tree hoose, for the second episode of my tiny house tours series. I know calling it an episode and a series makes me sound like a knobhead, but I don't know what else to call it. Anyway, as part of that trip, I took the scenic route up and visited some interesting little places along the way, which I thought I'd share with you. The first place I stopped at was a 15th century church called Kiltharley. I know you didn't sign up for a history lesson, but you're about to get one. Well, I'm going to copy and paste what Wikipedia says. Back in 1933, the church was rebuilt with original architectural features from the medieval period, and this rebuild was funded by a group of Canadians who once had family in the area where the church is located. One cool thing about the church is that the local parish still occasionally uses it for mass in the summer months. Outside the church there are several of these stone structures known as cairns. According to the good people over at wikipedia.org, hundreds of years ago when Highland clans were getting ready to set off for battle, each man would place a stone in a pile. The men who survived and returned from battle would remove a stone from the pile, and the stones that remained were built into a cairn to honour the dead. If you're concerned that this video is going to be all about dead people and gravestones, don't worry, it'll get lighthearted soon. Well, after this next bit. A couple of miles along the road, I visited the Commando Memorial in Spean Bridge, which is a monument dedicated to the members of the Commando forces who were killed during the Second World War. For some reason, a group of guys thought this was the perfect place to pitch their tent, which is kind of weird and disrespectful. Okay, that is genuinely our segment on death complete now. It's all nice scenery and waterfalls from here on out. The next place I stopped at was Fort Augustus. It has a lot of boats and tourists and sits on the edge of Loch Ness, which is, of course, the home of the Loch Ness Monster. According to Wikipedia, Fort Augustus holds the UK's record for lowest temperature ever recorded in May, at minus 9.4 degrees Celsius. Fort Augustus doesn't really have much going on. Further up the road I stopped at another church, this time in the village of Kiltharley. It might not look very special, but this is where my granddad, also called George Dunnett, was a minister. He died before I was born and I'm not religious myself, so that's all I really have to say about that. There's not really much to do in Kiltharley, and to prove that, the highlight from their Wikipedia page is that they have a community council which publishes a newsletter 3 times a year. 10 minutes up the road I found a patchwork and quilting shop with a cool name, so I had to make a stop. On the way to visit a family friend near the village of Bewley, I picked up a box of cakes from Harry Gow's and decided to try one of these marzipan apple fellows. But a word of warning, don't eat that little black bit. I found out the hard way that those are strictly for decoration. This is the view that our family friend has from her living room. I do like where I live, but when I see views like this, I kind of fantasize a little bit about living up north at some point. Before setting off again, I stole some of her apples in case I met any Highland cows along the way that I could feed. Sadly, I did not meet any, so if anyone knows where there are friendly Highland cows up this way, then leave a comment. On the road up to Ullapool, I stopped off at one of my favourite places in Scotland, which is Rogie Falls. I did try to get some video from the suspension bridge that overlooks the falls, but the person tap dancing on the other side of the bridge had other plans. Setting off from Rogie Falls is a really beautiful drive up to Ullapool with lots of hills and lochs by the roadside. I can actually vouch for Ullapool being a nice place to visit if you're coming to the Highlands. It's quite laid back, has a decent amount of Scottish culture without being tacky about it, and it also has ferry links to the Western Isles if you want to explore further. I've never actually been to the Western Isles myself, but I'd like to go one day. Ullapool also has an average of 1,105 sunshine hours per year, making it cloudier than any major city in Europe, according to Wikipedia. After picking up some snacks, I drove out to Ardmer Beach to have a mini picnic and do some exploring. I'll also ask one of my favourite questions here: if you could only have one type of sweet, one type of drink, and one type of crisp or potato chip for all my American viewers, what three would you choose? This would be my choice aside from the Coke. I'd usually just have water, but I'm a sucker for new and limited edition food and drinks. Moving on from one of my favourite questions to one of my favourite pastimes, I hit up the rock pools to see what was happening over there. Now usually catching crabs will ruin your holiday, but this was honestly a highlight for me. I'm still trying to figure out what direction to take this channel. I'm not sure if people like me and the vlog style content, or if I should just purely focus on the tiny house and money making videos, so I'll be experimenting until I can clearly see what people are most interested in. With that said, if you do enjoy these kind of videos exploring Scotland, then I'd appreciate you taking a second to leave a like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.